Cal Reed was not a hero. He was not a soldier or a pilot or even one of those daring smugglers who flew between stars with a grin and a story. He was just a delivery boy, one of hundreds working on the great space station called Orion's Gate. The station was a city in the sky, a floating maze of steel and light that circled a blue-white sun. Thousands of aliens lived and traded there. Every corridor hummed with the sound of engines, every deck smelled faintly of oil and heat. Humans like Cal were near the bottom of the list. Cheap labor, forgotten faces, workers who kept the place running but were never invited to anything important. Cal didn't mind too much. He had grown up here. He knew the narrow passages, the hidden lifts, and the quiet spots where one could rest without being noticed. Every morning he would load his small hover cart with sealed containers, check his delivery routes on his handheld screen, and begin the long walk through the maze of decks. "Keep your head down, don't make trouble," his old supervisor used to say. It was the kind of advice that kept a person employed. On that particular day, Cal had a strange delivery order. The crate was marked with golden seals, something far above his pay grade. The destination read, "Upper Diplomatic Ring, Chamber 47A, clearance required." He almost refused it. Humans rarely went up there. But he needed the credits. Rent wasn't cheap and the oxygen tax had gone up again. So he took the lift to the upper levels, the ones that gleamed with glass and polished metal. It felt like another world. The air even smelled cleaner. As he rolled his cart along the quiet corridor, he could feel the eyes of guards watching him. "Delivery for Chamber 47A, he said when he reached the door. The guards scanned his ID. Their scales shimmered a pale blue as they exchanged glances. One finally pressed a button and the door slid open. Inside was a large hall filled with strange light. Tall alien nobles stood around a round table, their robes flowing like liquid silver. Their voices were low, calm, and musical. Cal felt completely out of place. He pushed the crate toward them and tried not to stare. One of the aliens, a tall figure with golden eyes, turned to him and said something in a language Cal didn't understand. He smiled awkwardly. "Delivery. Need a signature, please." The alien frowned. Cal hesitated, trying to be polite. He lifted the crate but the bottom was slick and his hands slipped. The heavy box crashed to the floor with a loud metallic bang. The sound echoed through the hall. Cal froze. Everyone turned toward him. His heart pounded. I'm sorry," he stammered. "It just slipped." And then, without thinking, he muttered something under his breath. "Ah, Varen Cortal," he said. It was something his grandfather used to say whenever something went wrong. Cal had no idea what it meant. It was just an old saying, passed down from some forgotten story. The room went silent. Every alien in the chamber stopped moving. Their eyes widened. The golden-eyed one stepped forward, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief. "Repeat that," the alien said quietly. Cal blinked. What?" "The words. Say them again." I don't know what I said," Cal said nervously. "It's just something I've heard since I was a kid." The alien's tone sharpened. "Say it again." Cal swallowed hard. "Varen Cortal." The alien whispered something to his aides. Two of them immediately ran to a console and began typing furiously. The rest simply stared at Cal as if seeing a ghost. "What's going on?" Cal asked, his voice rising. "Did I say something bad?" No one answered. Suddenly, the golden-eyed alien approached him, lowering his head slightly. "Human," he said in a slow, careful tone. "Where did you learn those words?" "I told you," Cal said. "My grandfather used to say them. He said they were from old stories." The alien took a step back, almost stumbling. "Impossible," he whispered. "That language is dead. It has not been spoken for 10,000 years. Cal frowned. "Dead language? What are you talking about?" The alien looked at him as if he were a living myth. "You spoke the tongue of the Star Kings." Cal had heard that name before. The Star Kings were old legends, powerful beings who ruled the galaxy long before any modern species rose. People said they built worlds, commanded suns, and vanished without a trace. No one knew who they were, and most thought they never existed at all. "I think you're mistaken," Cal said quickly. "I'm just a delivery boy. I don't even know what I said." But the aliens didn't seem to believe him. They were speaking in hushed tones now, moving toward him slowly as if approaching a dangerous relic. One of the guards stepped closer. "Take him to containment," he said coldly. "Wait, what?" Cal protested. "I didn't do anything." Two guards grabbed his arms, their grips like iron. "You will come with us," one of them said. "I'm just delivering a box." Cal shouted. "You don't need to arrest me for tripping." But they didn't listen. They led him out of the chamber, down a long corridor and into a dark room filled with strange lights. They questioned him for hours. Where did he learn the words? Who taught him? Did he have other phrases? Every answer he gave only made them more nervous. When they finally left him alone, he sat there shaking. His mind raced. He replayed the moment in his head, the crate, the accident, the words slipping from his mouth. Varancourt. What could it possibly mean? He didn't know, but somewhere deep inside the station lights flickered. Far away, on the edge of the galaxy, an ancient machine stirred. It had been silent for ages, floating in the dark near a dying star. Now its sensors came alive. Dust fell away as power hummed through its circuits. Across the galaxy, signals began to pulse. Ancient satellites blinked awake, sending messages that hadn't been seen in thousands of years. On Orion's gate, the golden-eyed alien stood before a holographic display. The phrase Cal had spoken glowed in light, written in symbols that no one alive could read, except the machines now reawakening. He turned to his aides. The prophecy is true, he whispered. The heir has spoken. Back in the holding room, Cal leaned against the wall, rubbing his sore wrists. This has to be some kind of mistake, he muttered. They're acting like I just started a war or something. He didn't know how right he was. Outside, a faint vibration passed through the station, a whisper carried by the stars. The beacon had heard the voice of its master. And somewhere, light years away, a single word appeared on a forgotten screen, written in glowing letters of gold. Awakening. Cal closed his eyes, trying to rest, unaware that the entire galaxy had just begun to change because of one small accidental phrase from a tired delivery boy. He would wake soon to find that his life, and all of humanity's, would never be the same again. Cal Reed had been sitting in the cold room for what felt like forever. The metal walls hummed softly, and the single light above him flickered every few seconds. He was tired, confused, and hungry. No one had told him anything. The guards came and went without speaking a word. He kept replaying everything in his head, the crate, the strange words, the look on the aliens' faces. It made no sense. How could a few words from his grandfather cause this much trouble? When the door finally opened, Cal jumped a little. A woman stepped inside, tall and steady, wearing a dark pilot's jacket. She had sharp green eyes and the kind of calm that came from someone used to danger. "You're human," she said, almost sounding surprised. "Last time I checked," Cal muttered. "Who are you?" "Captain Lyra Voss," she replied. "I was called to help. They say you spoke something special." "Special?" Cal laughed nervously. "I said something stupid when I dropped a box. That's all." Lyra leaned on the table. "They think you said something from a dead language. The Star King's language." Cal frowned. "Everyone keeps saying that. What does it even mean?" She sighed. "The Star Kings were rulers from long ago. They built the first cities among the stars before any of these alien empires existed. Then one day they vanished. Some say they died. Others say they left on purpose. And you think I spoke their language?" "That's what they say," she replied quietly. "The last being to speak it was over 10,000 years ago." Cal sat back, staring at the metal table. "That's impossible. My grandfather worked in a scrapyard on Mars. He barely knew English half the time." Lyra smiled faintly. "Maybe he knew more than you think." The door slid open again and a small alien entered, thin, with silver eyes that shimmered under the light. It wore a long gray robe covered in old symbols. "I am Kalai," the alien said in a soft voice. "I study the languages of lost ages. May I hear the words again?" Cal looked at Lyra. She nodded. "Fine," he said. "But don't freak out this time." He took a deep breath and said, "Varancourt." The air in the room shifted. The lights flickered once, then steadied. The table gave a low hum like it had felt the sound. Kalai's eyes widened. "It is true," he whispered. "He speaks the first tongue." "The what now?" Cal asked. Kalai stepped closer. "The first tongue, the language spoken by those who built the gates, who shaped the stars. The one that controls the old machines." Lyra folded her arms. "You mean he activated something?" "Yes," Kalai said. "Across the void, an ancient signal has awakened. It listens to his voice." Cal stared at them both. "You're saying I turned something on? Just by speaking?" Kalai nodded slowly. "Something old. Something powerful." Lyra and Cal exchanged a glance. "Then what happens now?" Cal asked. Kalai looked grim. "Now others will come. Some to worship. Some to destroy. All will want what you have." Before Cal could ask more, the alarm in the hallway blared. A red light flashed. The door opened again and a guard shouted, "There's movement near the outer rings, unknown ships just dropped out of warp." Lyra moved fast. "We need to go." "What? Why me?" Cal asked. "Because they're here for you," she said. They rushed through the corridors. Cal barely had time to think. The entire station felt alive, trembling slightly as distant weapons fired. Lyra led them toward the hangar, with Kalai gliding silently beside them. "Who's attacking us?" Cal shouted. "Could be anyone," Lyra said. "If that signal went out, half the galaxy probably heard it." They reached Dock 12, Cal's dock, the one where he used to unload crates every day. His old cart was still parked near the wall. It felt strange seeing it now when everything around him was chaos. Lyra pointed at a small freighter. "That one's mine. Get in." Cal hesitated. "You're trusting me to come with you?" "Trust isn't the word," she said. "You're our only chance to figure out what's happening." They jumped aboard. The freighter's engines roared to life, shaking the floor. Outside the hangar window, bright flashes lit the dark, ships firing, explosions near the defense ring. As they lifted off, Cal looked back through the viewport. Orion's gate, his home, looked like a shining wheel burning in the dark. He had never left it before. Now it was behind him, shrinking fast. Once they cleared the battle zone, Lyra turned to him. "Now tell me everything. Start with your grandfather." Cal tried to remember. "He used to tell stories when I was little. He said we came from a long line of wanderers, people who built things before anyone else. He said our ancestors spoke words that could wake the stars. I thought it was just old family nonsense." Kalai's silver eyes glimmered. Perhaps it was truth disguised as legend. The Star Kings were said to be human. Few believed it. Until now. Cal laughed softly. "You're saying humans ruled the galaxy? That's insane." "Maybe," Lyra said, "but you just made a machine light up by speaking. I'd say insanity's already in motion." Kalai leaned closer. "You must understand, there are worlds built by the Star Kings still floating in the dark. If your voice can command them, then the balance of power will change forever." Cal rubbed his temples. "I didn't ask for this. I just wanted to deliver a box." "I know," Lyra said gently. "But the galaxy doesn't care what we ask for." They flew for hours, heading toward the outer systems. Kalai plotted a course toward the coordinates of the signal, the ancient beacon that had awakened. When Cal finally got a moment alone, he stared out the window. The stars stretched endlessly, cold and bright. He thought about home, about the small room he had in the workers' quarters, about his quiet life. Now he was being hunted for something he didn't understand. Lyra came to stand beside him. "You okay?" "Not really," he said. "I think I broke the galaxy." She smiled faintly. "You might have fixed it instead. Time will tell." Suddenly, Kalai called out from the console. "The beacon is responding again." They hurried to the cockpit. On the screen, strange symbols flickered, old shapes glowing gold. Cal leaned forward. The symbols twisted, forming words he somehow understood without knowing how. It says, "The air has spoken. The gates prepare." "The gates?" Lyra asked. Kalai looked almost afraid. "The star gates. There are thousands across the galaxy, ancient tunnels between stars. They have been dead for ages." On the screen, one of the symbols pulsed brighter. "Until now," Cal said quietly. A moment later, the stars outside shifted. A ripple passed through space like the universe itself taking a breath. Lyra's hands tightened on the controls. "What was that?" Kalai whispered. "The first gate just woke up." Cal sat back stunned. The words he had spoken, words he barely understood, had just brought an entire network of ancient technology back to life. The comm unit beeped suddenly. A distorted voice came through, filled with static. "Human vessel, identify yourself. You are in restricted territory." Lyra turned pale. "That's the Empire's fleet. They must have tracked the signal." Cal looked at her, panic rising. "What do we do?" She met his eyes. "We run. And you start remembering everything your grandfather ever told you." As the freighter jumped into warp, Cal felt the weight of 1,000 unknown worlds pressing on his shoulders. Somewhere behind them, the first gate of the Star Kings shone like a new sun. He didn't know it yet, but the entire galaxy was about to remember the name of humanity, because of a tired delivery boy who spoke a dead language without meaning to. And the echo of kings was only beginning. The small freighter drifted through the quiet dark of space, far from the busy trade routes and bright cities of the inner worlds. The stars looked sharper out here, colder, older. Cal Reed sat near the window, staring at the endless black, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. He had never left the station before. He had never seen space like this, so silent, so huge. It made him feel very small. Lyra Voss sat in the pilot's seat, calm and focused as she steered the ship through the void. Kalai, the silver-eyed alien scholar, worked at the main console, reading strange signals that appeared and vanished on the screen. "We're close now," Kalai said softly. "The beacon is just beyond that dying star ahead." Cal leaned forward. "That's where the signal came from?" "Yes," Kalai said. "It has been silent for 10,000 years. It woke when you spoke the old words." Cal frowned. "And you're sure it's not just broken machinery?" Kalai gave him a small, almost kind smile. "You will see soon." Lyra adjusted the ship's course. The dying star ahead burned a deep orange, its light weak and flickering. Around it, broken pieces of metal and stone floated, ruins of something ancient and massive. As they got closer, the ship's scanners picked up strange readings. "There," Lyra said, pointing. "You seeing that shape?" Cal pressed his face to the glass. At first, it looked like a mountain drifting through space. But as they neared, its true size became clear. It wasn't a rock. It was a structure, a massive ring of dark stone and shining gold metal, large enough to hold a small moon inside it. "That's it," Kalai said, his voice almost trembling. "The beacon of the Star Kings." The freighter approached slowly, passing through clouds of space dust and fragments of forgotten ships. The structure looked damaged but alive, as if it had been asleep and was now slowly waking. Cal felt something strange then, a faint hum deep inside his chest, like the sound was coming from him, not the ship. "Do you hear that?" he asked. Lyra shook her head. "I don't hear anything." Kalai turned toward him. "Only you can hear it. It calls to your voice." Cal swallowed hard. "I didn't ask for it to." The beacon loomed ahead, covered in old carvings. Some of the markings glowed faintly as their ship drew near. The door at its center opened slowly, like a yawning mouth, revealing a tunnel lined with golden light. Lyra guided the ship inside. The tunnel led them into a massive hall, large enough for 100 ships. Everything was quiet. Dust floated like mist. They landed on a flat platform. When the engines shut off, the silence was deep, so deep Cal could hear his own heartbeat. Kalai stepped forward first. "We must enter the inner chamber," he said. "The beacon will speak there." Lyra checked her blaster. "Let's make it quick. This place gives me the creeps." Cal followed them down the ramp, his boots echoing softly on the old floor. The air felt strange, not cold or warm, just alive. He ran his hand along a nearby wall. It pulsed faintly under his touch. They reached the heart of the beacon, a round room filled with floating crystals and tall stone pillars. In the center was a pedestal, shaped like a hand reaching upward. Kalai bowed slightly. "This is the throne of the voice. The kings spoke here when they ruled the stars." Cal looked at it uneasily. "And you think it's waiting for me?" Kalai nodded. "You are the one who woke it." Lyra put a hand on Cal's shoulder. "You don't have to touch anything if you don't want to." But even as she spoke, the pedestal began to glow, as if sensing his presence. Symbols lit up across the floor, forming spirals of light. The air vibrated softly, whispering words in a tongue that Cal didn't know, but somehow understood. "Welcome, heir of Terra." The voice wasn't loud. It was calm and deep, echoing from the walls themselves. Cal's eyes widened. "Did it just call me?" "Yes," Kalai said. "It knows you." "I don't understand," Cal said. "I'm nobody. I deliver packages." The voice spoke again, this time in a rhythm like a heartbeat. The line unbroken. "The seed endures. The voice returns." A beam of golden light rose from the pedestal, touching the ceiling. Images formed in the air, tall humans in shining armor, standing among stars. Their faces were calm, proud, powerful. Lyra stared in awe. "Those are humans." Kalai whispered, "The Star Kings were of your kind. You are their descendant." Cal took a step back. "No. That can't be true. My family's from Mars. We barely had clean water growing up." "Yet the blood remembers," the voice said gently. "And the song continues." Before Cal could respond, the light spread outward, touching the walls. Suddenly, hundreds of stasis pods lit up around them. The three of them turned as the pods began to open, one after another. Inside were figures, humans, tall and silent, wearing strange armor that shimmered faintly in the light. They stepped out slowly, their eyes glowing gold like the beacon itself. Lyra raised her weapon, but Kalai held up a hand. "Do not," he said. "They are not enemies." One of the armored figures approached Cal. It knelt before him and spoke in the same ancient voice. "At last the air speaks again." We have waited long for your return. Cal froze. I'm not your heir, he said weakly. I don't even know what's happening. You carry the blood and the word, the figure said. That is enough. Kalai's voice trembled. This is history coming alive. The army of the Star Kings, awakened after millennia. Lyra glanced at the scanners. Her expression turned pale. Kalai, we've got company. A lot of it. Ships coming in fast. Kalai rushed to the controls near the wall. They followed the signal. The beacon's power drew them here. Cal looked toward the ceiling where the golden light now pulsed faster. He could almost feel the fear and anger of the approaching ships. They'll attack, he said quietly. They'll try to destroy this. The armored human looked at him. Then speak the command, my lord. We will defend the beacon. I don't know what to say. Cal shouted. Your heart will know, the soldier replied. Lyra grabbed his arm. Cal, we have to do something. We can't fight a whole fleet. He looked at her, at Kalai, at the glowing hall filled with ancient warriors who looked like ghosts from another age. The words came to him, quiet and strange, rising from some deep memory. Varental, Koralma. The beacon answered with a thunderous hum. The floor shook. All around them, golden shields formed, wrapping the beacon in layers of light. The warriors raised their hands, their armor glowing brighter. Outside, the incoming ships fired, but their blasts hit the shields and vanished in sparks. Kalai fell to his knees. He has done it. The air commands the old defense grid. Lyra stared at Cal, half in awe and half in disbelief. What did you just say? Cal blinked, his voice shaking. I think it means, protect the flame. The beacon glowed stronger, spreading light across the darkness of space. The attacking ships began to pull back, their weapons useless against the ancient power. When it was over, the hall was quiet again. The golden warriors bowed to Cal before returning to their pods. The light dimmed, leaving only the faint hum of the living beacon. Cal stood there, breathing hard, his heart pounding. I didn't want any of this, he whispered. Kalai looked up at him with wonder. You may not want it, but it has chosen you. Lyra rested a hand on his shoulder. You just saved us, Cal. Maybe even more than us. He looked up at the great golden light above. For the first time he realized the truth. The galaxy had forgotten who built its stars, but he had just reminded it. And somewhere deep in the dark, other beacons began to wake, answering the call of the boy who spoke like a king. The news of the beacon's awakening spread faster than light. Every corner of the galaxy heard the same story. A human had spoken the lost words of the Star Kings and reactivated their forgotten machines. Some called it a miracle. Others called it a threat. Cal Reed did not see himself as either. He still thought of himself as the same delivery boy who used to carry boxes through the long halls of Orion's Gate. But now, when he looked at the mirror, he saw something else in his reflection. Fear, confusion, and the faint golden light that sometimes shimmered behind his eyes. He didn't want power. He didn't want to lead armies or awaken ancient machines. But the galaxy did not ask what he wanted. Days after the beacon came to life, fleets began to move. The alien empires who had ruled for centuries now feared what the return of the Star Kings could mean. The idea of a human controlling old weapons strong enough to burn worlds made them restless. Some sent ambassadors with sweet words. Others sent assassins in the dark. Lyra Voss saw the danger coming long before Cal did. You need to decide what you are, she told him one night as they watched the stars from the freighter. If you don't, others will decide for you. Cal sighed. I don't want to be anything. I just want this to stop. It won't stop, she said softly. The beacon answered you. That means it belongs to you. And what belongs to you, others will try to take. Kalai agreed. Already the Council of Worlds debates whether to destroy you or worship you. They cannot agree on what you are. I'm just a person, Cal said. Why can't they see that? Because they see what they fear, Kalai replied. And they fear the voice of the past. The beacon's warriors, those tall, golden-eyed soldiers who had slept for thousands of years, now stood ready across the galaxy. They did not eat, sleep, or question. They simply waited for Cal's command. Every time he spoke the old words, more of them woke. Soon, fleets of human-made ships from the old colonies began to gather near the beacon. Humanity had been weak for generations, scattered across small worlds, living under alien rule. But now they saw a sign. They saw Cal Reed. They began calling him the heir of Terra. He hated that name. One morning, while the freighter rested near a quiet moon, a message came through the comms. It was from the Council of Worlds, the same council that once ignored humans. Human Cal Reed, the voice said coldly. You are ordered to surrender control of the ancient beacon and cease activation of further technology. Refusal will be considered a declaration of war. Cal looked at Lyra and Kalai. They want me to hand over something I don't even understand. They want to end what they fear, Lyra said. And they think destroying you will do that. Kalai frowned. If they attack, the old fleets will respond. The Star Kings built them to protect the air. If war comes, it will not be a small one. Cal closed his eyes. I can't let that happen. But the choice was already gone. 2 days later, the sky above the beacon turned red with incoming ships. Thousands of war vessels from different worlds gathered, forming a circle of fire. Their weapons glowed like stars. Cal stood on the beacon's upper deck, the hum of ancient power vibrating under his feet. Beside him, Lyra adjusted her earpiece, scanning the enemy formations. That's the biggest fleet I've ever seen, she said. They're not coming to talk. Kalai bowed his head. The air must speak or all will burn. Cal shook his head. I don't want to fight. I don't want to kill anyone. Lyra looked at him carefully. Then tell the beacon what you want. It listens to you, not me. Cal hesitated. Then he placed his hand on the glowing console in front of him. The golden light spread through the floor like veins of fire. The beacon waited. He spoke in a voice that trembled but carried across the stars. Defend. Protect. Do not destroy. The beacon answered. All across space, the ships of the Star Kings came alive. Huge vessels, old as time, moved from their silent orbits. Their golden shields spread outward, forming a barrier that wrapped around the beacon like an invisible wall. When the alien fleets opened fire, their weapons struck the barrier and vanished in light. The beacon's defense grid absorbed everything without returning a single shot. Cal could feel the power flowing through him. The ancient words echoed in his mind, begging to be spoken, but he held back. He didn't want to become like the kings of legend who ruled by fear. The battle raged on for hours. The enemy ships grew desperate. They tried to break through, but the golden light held firm. The beacon's machines protected, just as he had commanded. Lyra stood beside him, watching the impossible unfold. You're doing it, she said quietly. You're stopping them without firing a single weapon. Cal nodded weakly. I just hope they understand I don't want a war. But deep in the chaos, another fleet appeared, one with no flag, no signal. A shadowy armada made of black ships that did not belong to any known race. Kalai's eyes went wide. Those are from the Outer Veil. Raiders. They serve no one. The black ships opened fire on both sides. They did not care who they hit. Explosions tore through the void. The fragile peace shattered. Cal's hands tightened. No. He felt the beacon's energy rise around him, wild and hot. He could feel the power wanting to act, to strike, to destroy. His heart pounded. Cal? Lyra shouted. You have to do something. They'll kill everyone. He looked at her, his face pale. If I speak the wrong words, I could destroy everything. Then speak from your heart, she said. That's what makes you human. Cal took a deep breath and whispered the words that came to him like a memory. Varen Solan, Ta Enra. The light burst from the beacon, spreading like a wave. The black ships froze in place, their engines dying. Every weapon in the battle stopped firing. The silence was heavy, almost holy. Then one by one the ships began to back away. Even the Council's war fleet pulled back, unsure what had just happened. Kalai stared at the glowing console. He has done the impossible. The ancient words commanded peace. Cal sank to his knees, exhausted. What did I say? Kalai translated softly. You said, all hands rest. No more fire. Lyra knelt beside him. You just ended a war. Outside, the light of the beacon dimmed, returning to its calm golden glow. The battlefield slowly emptied, leaving only wreckage and silence. For a moment, Cal thought it was over. But deep down he knew it wasn't. Power like this would never be ignored. There would always be others who wanted it. Later that night, as the beacon drifted quietly, Lyra joined Cal on the observation deck. The stars were calm again, scattered like silver dust. She looked at him and said, You could rule them, you know? The machines would obey you. The humans would follow. Cal shook his head. That's not who I am. I don't want to rule anyone. Kalai, standing nearby, spoke softly. Then perhaps you will lead by refusing the throne. That too is strength. Cal gazed at the stars. Somewhere out there, more beacons were waking. He could feel them in his heart, calling softly, waiting for his voice. He didn't know what he would do next. But he knew one thing. The Star Kings had once ruled with fear, and he would not make the same mistake. He wasn't a king. He was a delivery boy who had found the power to choose peace. And as long as he breathed, the galaxy would not forget that humans still had a voice strong enough to stop a war. Weeks passed since the war at the beacon ended. The galaxy was quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that comes after a storm, when everyone waits to see what happens next. Cal Reed, once a delivery boy from Dock 12, had become the name that filled every report, every whisper, and every message between worlds. Some called him savior. Some called him threat. But to himself he was still just Cal, a man who carried things from one place to another. He had refused every offer of power. The Council of Worlds had begged him to join them. The human colonies wanted him to lead a new empire. Even the beacon's golden warriors still waited silently for his orders. But Cal wanted none of it. He wanted to go back to the simple life, the one where his biggest worry was whether a package arrived on time. One morning he sat in the freighter's small kitchen with Lyra Voss and Kalai. The coffee machine hummed softly, filling the air with the smell of something almost like earth coffee. Lyra leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "You really mean it?" she asked. "You're just going to leave? After all that?" Cal smiled faintly. "Someone has to deliver supplies to the outer colonies. Might as well be me." Kalai tilted his head. "The heir of the Star Kings wishes to return to courier work. It sounds humble." "That's the point," Cal said. "I didn't wake up a god. I just woke up a man with a weird voice problem." Lyra rolled her eyes but couldn't help smiling. "You could change the galaxy, Cal." He nodded. "Maybe I already did. Maybe it doesn't need me to keep changing it." The freighter Horizon's Way hummed to life. Its engines were old but loyal, patched together with spare parts and duct tape. Cal liked it that way. It reminded him of who he used to be, imperfect but still working. Their next stop was a small planet on the edge of the outer rim, a place called Aros 9. It wasn't much, just miners, farmers, and a small trade hub. But someone there had sent a message asking for help. No one else had answered. Cal decided to deliver the supplies himself. When they landed, the people looked at him with wide eyes. They had seen his face in every broadcast. To them he was a legend made of light and gold. But he didn't want to be a legend. So he smiled, handed out food crates, and fixed broken machines like he used to. He worked beside the miners, his hands dirty, his shirt stained with dust. And for the first time in months he felt peace. One evening, while he was repairing an old generator, a little girl approached him. She had dark curls and eyes full of curiosity. "Are you the Star King?" she asked. Cal paused, wiping sweat from his forehead. "No," he said softly. "I'm just the delivery man." "But my father says you stopped the war," she said proudly. Cal smiled. "Maybe. But you know what's more important." She shook her head. "That people help each other," he said. "That's how we keep the peace going." The girl thought about that for a moment and then nodded. "You're strange," she said honestly before running off. Cal laughed quietly. That night, the three of them sat near a campfire outside the colony. Lyra looked up at the stars. "Do you ever think about what's out there? What else those beacons could do?" Cal poked at the fire with a stick. "All the time. But maybe the galaxy doesn't need to wake them. Maybe it needs to rest." Kalai looked thoughtful. "There are still those who hunt you, Cal. Not all empires accept peace." "I know," Cal said. "But if they come for me, I'll talk to them. And if they don't listen, I'll keep delivering." Lyra chuckled. "You'll try to solve another galactic crisis with a delivery run?" He shrugged. "It worked once." A few days later they received another transmission, an urgent one. It came from deep space beyond any charted system. The message was broken, filled with static, but one word was clear: help. Cal looked at Lyra. "That doesn't sound like a customer order." "No," she said, checking the coordinates. "That's near the ruins of Arden Prime. Nobody's been there for centuries." Kalai looked uneasy. "It is said that Arden Prime was the home of the first Star Kings. Whatever still lives there may not be human." Cal hesitated. He had promised himself not to get pulled into anything big again. But then he remembered the girl's words, the faces of the people who had believed in him. He sighed. "One last delivery," he said. The trip took 3 days. The stars grew strange and distant. The closer they got to Arden Prime, the darker the void became. The planet was broken, cracked like glass, glowing faintly with old energy. When they landed, they saw the ruins of great towers, half buried in dust. The air was thin, the silence heavy. Lyra held her blaster close. "I don't like this place." Kalai nodded. "I feel voices. Old ones." Cal walked forward, holding a small light. His boots crunched on the gray sand. In the center of the ruins stood a massive door covered in carvings. Words written in the same ancient language he had spoken before. Without thinking, he read them aloud. The ground shook, and the door opened slowly, revealing a chamber filled with golden light. Inside stood a single figure, an old machine shaped like a man, still glowing faintly. "Who speaks the tongue of the kings?" the machine asked in a deep voice. Cal swallowed. "My name is Cal Reed. I didn't mean to." "You carry their voice," the machine said. "Then you are the last of them." "No," Cal said firmly. "I'm not a king. I'm just someone trying to make things better." The machine's eyes flickered. "The kings made war. You made peace. Perhaps that is better." The light in the machine's chest began to fade. Before it went dark, it extended a metal hand. In its palm was a small crystal, glowing faintly blue. "What is this?" Cal asked. "The last message of the Star Kings," the machine said. "A promise that power can serve peace, not destroy it. Keep it safe." Then the light vanished and the chamber grew silent again. Cal held the crystal carefully. It felt warm, alive somehow. He looked at Lyra and Kalai. "Let's take it home." They left Arden Prime quietly. As their freighter rose into the sky, Cal placed the crystal beside his old delivery scanner. It pulsed softly like a heartbeat. Back on the ship, Lyra sat beside him in the cockpit. "You realize you just found something that could change everything again?" Cal smiled faintly. "Maybe. But this time I won't use it to wake the past. I'll use it to protect the future." Kalai bowed his head. "Then perhaps the Star Kings have finally found their true heir." Cal shook his head. "No. Just their courier." Outside, the stars stretched endlessly ahead, bright and full of promise. Cal leaned back in his chair, hands on the controls. He looked at the coordinates of their next stop, a small colony waiting for medicine. He grinned. "Let's make this delivery on time." The freighter soared forward into the endless dark, leaving behind the ghosts of old empires and carrying with it the simple hope of one human heart. Somewhere, far behind them, the beacon glowed faintly one last time, like a goodbye from the past to the boy who had learned how to carry the future. And as the stars drifted by, Cal Reed smiled softly to himself. He had delivered peace once, and that would always be his greatest delivery of all.